Space is vast, it's mostly silent, and it is absolutely packed with mysteries. But honestly, few are as captivating as what happened on a late summer night back in 1977. Today, we're investigating a true cosmic cold case, a fleeting radio signal that has completely baffled scientists and kind of hijacked our collective imagination for decades. Welcome to The Explainer. Let's get right into it.
Because this whole thing brings up the ultimate question, doesn't it? Have we already heard from aliens? Is it possible that the definitive proof of extraterrestrial intelligence just briefly brushed past Earth, only to vanish forever into the cosmic static? Well, today we aren't dealing in science fiction. We're going to look strictly at the hard data, the forensic evidence, and the real scientific hypotheses to try and figure out what actually happened.
Our story kicks off with a volunteer astronomer named Jerry Ehman. Picture this, it's August 15, 1977, and he's just reviewing some routine data from a radio telescope. Suddenly, he sees something on the printout so astonishing that he literally circles it in red pen and just writes, "Wow!" right there in the margin. And that one stunned exclamation is exactly what gave this event its legendary name.
Which brings us to Section 1, the discovery of WOW, setting the scene.
Okay, so a little context. Back in 1973, Ohio State University dedicated its massive Big Ear radio telescope specifically to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. By 1977, volunteer Jerry Ehman's job was, well, pretty tedious. He spent his time poring over these massive stacks of line printer paper, just manually analyzing the data. But then, right in the middle of these endless, monotonous columns of background noise, this incredibly strong, unprecedented narrowband radio signal just popped up. It stood out instantly as something completely wildly anomalous.
Let's look closer at Section 2, Anatomy of the Anomaly, the forensic evidence. So what did he actually see? Notice that famous 6EQJ5 code circled on the paper. Now, people very often mistake this for an alien language or some sort of decoded message, but actually, scratch that. It's not. It's simply an alphanumeric intensity scale. A blank space just means normal background noise. Numbers 1 through 9 show slight bumps in intensity. But then the computer switches over to letters for the really high values. By the time you hit the letter U, you are looking at a massive signal that is 30 standard deviations above the normal background noise. I mean, it was unbelievably loud.
But, the sheer volume is just one piece of this puzzle. The really crucial point here is the frequency. Ehman calculated the signal to be precisely around 1420 megahertz. And here's a fun little aside. To get this exact number, he actually had to factor in a slight typo made by the university's purchasing department when they ordered the telescope's oscillator. Hey, science is all about the details, right?
So why is 1420 megahertz such a big deal? Because it's the hydrogen line. 18 years prior, in 1959, physicists Philip Morrison and Giuseppe Cocconi predicted that if an advanced alien civilization actually wanted to communicate across the galaxy, they would logically broadcast on this exact frequency. Why? Because hydrogen is literally the most common element in the universe. It's basically the universal dial on the cosmic radio. And then we have the duration. The WOW signal lasted for exactly 72 seconds. Not 70, not 74. Exactly 72. And that specific number? It's a massive, massive clue confirming its deep space origin.
Here's how that works. The Big Ear telescope couldn't actually swivel or track targets. It was totally fixed in place. It relied entirely on the Earth's rotation to sweep across the sky, almost like a giant fixed spotlight. Because of how fast the Earth rotates and the specific width of the telescope's observation window, it took exactly 72 seconds for a fixed point in deep space to pass through the beam. So the signal perfectly built up for 36 seconds, peaked at that giant U, and then faded for 36 seconds. It behaved exactly like a continuous transmission coming from deep space.
Let's move to Section 3, pinpointing the source, tracing the clues.
Now, here's where the forensic trail gets a little bit tricky. The Big Ear had this unique design featuring twin feed horns, basically two separate listening ears pointing in slightly different directions. The WOW signal was picked up in one beam, but not the other. And because of the way the data was processed back then, we can't definitively know which horn heard it. So we're left with two possible coordinate origins up in the sky.
But despite that ambiguity, we do know it originated in a region roughly 2.5 degrees south of the star group Cheese Sagittarii. For decades, we thought there were no known sun-like stars in that specific patch of space. However, jump forward to 2022, and a new study using modern astronomical data identified a highly likely candidate, a sun-like star located 1,800 light-years away from Earth, sitting right in the signal's path. Could that be the home of our elusive broadcasters? And that brings us to Section 4, investigating the suspects. What actually caused it?
If we treat this like a cold case file, we've got a lineup of primary suspects here. We've got interstellar scintillation, which is kind of like the atmospheric twinkling of stars but for radio waves. There's reflections off human-made space debris, hydrogen clouds trailing behind passing comets, rare natural stellar emissions, and of course, the ever-present possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Well, let's go ahead and cross a few of these off the list right away. Interstellar scintillation, highly unlikely to produce a signal this strong that we wouldn't just pick up again later. And space debris? Even Jerry Ehman initially thought it might be a reflection of an Earth-based signal. But he later totally discarded the idea, pointing out that 1420 MHz is a globally protected spectrum. Nobody is legally broadcasting on it, it's strictly reserved for astronomy. Plus, a piece of space junk would need completely unrealistic physical characteristics to bounce a signal back looking exactly like the WOW signal did.
Then, in 2017, this astronomer proposed that the signal was actually caused by a hydrogen cloud surrounding two comets passing through the area. It made massive headlines, you probably saw it. However, the wider astronomical community, including the original Big Ear team themselves, thoroughly discredited this. They objectively proved those specific comets weren't even in the telescope's beam at the right time. Plus, comets don't naturally emit strongly at this specific frequency. And honestly, it completely fails to explain why the signal only appeared in one of the twin feed horns. So, scratch the comments.
Now, what's really fascinating is the most recent hypothesis from August 2024. Researchers at the Planetary Habitability Laboratory used data from the Arecibo Observatory to propose a brand new natural explanation. They suggest it could be a super-rare astrophysical event where sudden stellar emissions energized a cold, dark hydrogen cloud in deep space, causing it to violently and suddenly surge in radio brightness. It would essentially act like an immense natural microwave laser. Pretty wild, right?
Finally, Section 5, the endless search. A cosmic cold case.
So is a cosmic flare our final answer? Maybe. But to definitively confirm any theory, whether it's natural or artificial, we really need to hear it again. And we have certainly tried. Look at this timeline of massive coordinated effort. From Epin's immediate unsuccessful follow-ups right there in 1977, to the META array in the late 80s, to searches using the incredibly sensitive Very Large Array in 95, all the way to a highly targeted search by Breakthrough Listen in 2022 using state-of-the-art tech. The result of all the searching? Crickets. Total silence. A complete null result every single time.
But hey, we haven't just been passively listening, we've actually tried talking back. For the 35th anniversary of the signal back in 2012, the massive Arecibo Observatory beamed a high-speed digital stream straight back toward those potential target stars. It was made up of roughly 10,000 Twitter messages solicited by National Geographic, all carrying the hashtag chasing UFOs. They even attached a repeating sequence header so any alien listener would recognize it as absolutely intentional. Fair warning though, the transmitter actually briefly overheated during this, and it turns out the targeted stars weren't precisely in the exact origin zone anyway. But still, it was an incredibly energetic, fun exercise in interstellar communication.
Which leaves us, honestly, exactly where we started, staring at a red circle on an old computer printout. Was the 1977 WOW signal a 1 in a billion natural astrophysical anomaly that we just happened to get lucky enough to catch? Or was it a fleeting, intentional message from a civilization among the stars, someone we simply haven't heard from since? The forensic evidence points in some fascinating directions, but for now, this cosmic cold case remains officially unsolved. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep your eyes and your ears on the stars.